Broadcasting live to tape from beautiful Monmouth County, New Jersey, where on a clear night you can almost see Ari Lyndike Jr. destroying his family legacy. It's the RutgersKev Show.
Kevin O'Keefe gets the win at Charlotte.
Kevin O'Keefe is going to take his first win and only his third start in the series. Beautiful job for Kevin O'Keefe.
Thanks for joining. This is RutgersKev.
Gonna troll me forever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Sean, take a look at his on his feet there. Very appropriate today.
How does he have 38 viewers?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the RutgersKev Show. Jam-packed episode this week as we discuss the March build. Now, I will remind you, this is not a news show. So, if you want to know everything that's in the build, check out the other podcasts that are out there, including the iRacers Lounge and the iRacing Today radio show. Now, I want to talk to you about this very important... Excuse me. It's getting smoky in here. Anybody else seeing that smoke? There's somebody in that smoke. It's RutgersKev! The name is RutgersKev, and I am the two-time in the same year, 2010, Season 1, Time Trial Champion in Craftsman Trucks and the Silver Crown. Never been done before! I am a true video game sim racing legend! And that is not a joke. And if you want to challenge me, the two-time, you better bring it! I've been doing this since you were in diapers, jumping around on your little bunk beds. And I got the CDs to prove it. Yeah, that's right, CDs. See this? This is NASCAR Racing 2. NASCAR Racing 2. And not only did I have NASCAR Racing 2, I had NASCAR Racing 1, and my mommy bought me the strategy guide that gave me all the good setups. Yeah. But not just that. No. I've been playing the hardcore sims, like NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Yeah. Don't steal that CD key. It's very valuable. Greatest sim ever until iRacing. But not only that. NASCAR Sim Racing. Okay, let's not talk NASCAR Sim Racing. That's so good. Yeah. One more. New Kids on the Block, greatest hits. Oh, wait. New Kids. All right, forget it. That's not the point. The point is, you know, I forgot the point. Freaking New Kids on the Block ruined it. Oh, why was that in there in the first place? I don't know. Be on the track, I guess.
It's Chin Worth, it's Chin Out. How do you say his name? Who knows? Who cares? But this is his part of the show. Hello, everybody. It is Randy, and this is my little 2018 Season 2 build segment. I'm bringing you all the dirt content. So, starting off with the Sonoma Rallycross track, new layout, and I'm sort of doing this dirt stuff and bringing you some of the dirt oval content as well. And I'm sort of doing this in opposite order, kind of going from the least hype stuff to the most hype stuff, because I want to give the least hype stuff some credit, because I honestly think it's really, really good. So, like I said, Sonoma Road Course Rallycross layout, very interesting circuit. One of the notable things is that it feels a lot more like a European rallycross track. And for those who are unaware of what I mean, in the United States, most of the rallycross tracks are pretty much, they're built inside of ovals. They're, you know, they utilize an infield road course, or they might kind of run around an oval like they do, I believe, at Thompson, or, you know, it just sort of depends on the venue and a couple of other things. Or, you know, they run in the Port of Los Angeles, which is, you know, a pretty flat situation as well. In Europe, it's a little bit different. So in Europe, they tend to have like purpose-built rallycross tracks the way the United States has purpose-built ovals. And what those tracks have is a ton of elevation change. And this track definitely has that. It is a nice change that none of the tracks we have had. So runs a lot more like a European track. As you can see, pretty much on my second trip around the circuit right now. It's a nice technical little layout. I don't think it's going to generate the closest of racing because there's not a lot of great passing opportunities in terms of like straight up braking zones. However, those who can really drive a rallycross car, I think are going to be very, very quick here. I think this is going to be the most difficult layout on the sim by far. And one of the reasons for that is going to be turn 3, which is what I'm coming up to right now, or maybe turn 1, maybe what you call it in relation to the timing beam. But you transition off the asphalt onto the dirt, and when you do that, the front tires get on the dirt first, and they lose a bunch of grip, while the rear tires still have a bunch of grip. And when that happens, as you turn in, you just generate a bunch of understeer because the tires want to have, the front tires have a certain grip level, and the rear tires have a higher grip level. And any time that happens, you get understeer. So when you go into that big uphill right-hander at the start of a long dirt section, you need to brake the car a lot more. You need to slow the car down a lot more, and maybe even induce a little bit of oversteer. Now, I'm not using the handbrake at all because you don't really need to use the handbrake, even in real life. Even talk with Mitchell DeYoung, someone who I'm pretty good friends with, doesn't really use the handbrake a whole hell of a lot. So it's not something that you have to do. Now, I'm going to make the same exact mistake again here. As you can see, I try to carry a bunch of speed in. Front tires get onto the dirt. Car doesn't want to rotate. And then what ends up happening is you start to get a bit of a slide, and they'll one of two things happen. You either continue to plow and the front tires get into the grass and they lose more grip, or the rear tires get in the grass and they don't have any traction at all, and you end up spinning around. So you really do need to get the car slowed down. And when you get that uphill right, it just feels so good. And the same with that little left-hand kink. It's such a nice, rewarding little corner. This is, my first handful of laps on the circuit. Through that little left-hand kink that is gravel, you can carry so much more speed. And I end up finding a few tenths through there later in this session. Joker lap, by the way, is on the inside of this right-hander I just went through. It's basically a tighter version of that. A little bit nervous on the Joker, I'm not going to lie, because it's sort of, the braking zone is sort of right in the middle of where the other cars are trying to run their normal line. And I think one thing that'd be nice is because this has the feel of a European rallycross track, I think if they were to flip the Jokers, it would be amazing. So for those who are unaware of what I mean, in the United States, Joker laps are shortcuts. In Europe, Joker laps are elongations of the circuit. So it'd be a nice little touch that we currently do not have. That would be very, very nice. But that's the first little bit of dirt content. Sonoma, nice little layout. Hope you guys will enjoy this place, because I think I certainly will. Next track we have is going to be Lima Land. I'm going to do a handful of laps around this place in the midget. Now, I'm not I'm not very good in the midget. That's just what I'm going to say right there, right now. End of story. I actually feel, interestingly enough, a lot more comfortable in things Big Brother, the sprint car. But this is just sort of give you guys an idea of scale, considering how small this car is and how it feels at some of the bigger tracks. This feels a lot tighter than it should, because it's the first of kind of our quarter-mile bull rings that we're going to be getting the iRacing service, and this is just, it's gonna generate fantastic racing, in my opinion. See me pick up the left rear there, struggling just a little bit, but it's going to generate really interesting racing, especially with the World of Outlaws World Championships coming up in both the late model and the sprint cars. There's going to be a lot more off-throttle stuff. I think we're going to see people have to do things with the brake that they don't have to do with the big tracks, because those who are unaware, big half-mile and to a certain extent 3/8 mile ovals for really talented, especially sprint car guys, is pretty much wide open all the way around. Meanwhile, you see me just absolutely failing at driving a midget right here. The tears of Christopher Bell and Rico Bright, I can feel them flowing right now as they see me struggle like this. But these little quarter-mile racetracks, they have to be approached in a different way. The racing lines will develop in slightly different ways, and it's going to be super awesome to see the really talented guys really try to wheel this place, especially in a big pack of cars. I think there'll be people that struggle with it, but dirt racing's hard, baby, and you need to learn how to get off the throttle. Next little bit of content, and probably the most hyped, it's not necessarily this racetrack, but it is what I'm trying to show off with this. So this is the Charlotte Oval. This is sort of the big dirt oval we got. It's 4/10 of a mile, so basically a half-mile dirt oval. Reminds me a lot of Volusia in terms of its layout. It's got relatively short straights. You spend a lot of time in the corners. The straightaways aren't curved the way they are at Volusia, particularly the back straightaway at Volusia. So because of that, you don't get this situation where coming off a 2, you feel like you have all the room in the world, and then coming off 4, you just, like the wall just comes up wanting to kill you. You have a lot more room you feel with, but to work with you feel at Volusia, excuse me. But what the main thing I'm trying to show off here is the cushion. So you can see I have this track state, very, very slick. You see that sort of black groove in the middle? That generally means anyone who's ever done any sort of dirt oval racing knows that's where the slickness is, and that is not where you want to be. You want to try to keep, especially that right rear tire, down in good moisture-filled dirt when you can. And typically that's found around the bottom and up against the top. So the big update that we've gotten is what we call a cushion. And for those who are not dirt oval fans, what a cushion is essentially that as these cars go through a corner, they start throwing dirt up against the outside wall. And as that happens, it sort of starts to collect at the base of the wall on the racing surface. And what ends up happening is you essentially get a berm up there. And what that berm is called is the cushion. You'll hear, if you ever watch World of Outlaw broadcast, you'll hear Johnny Gibson on the sprint cars. He'll refer to it several times in a night, because it is one of the interesting things of watching how that top groove comes in and potentially even goes away. So, like I said, it's just an elevation change essentially on a dirt oval. It's sort of you can almost think of it as a proactive wedge adjustment, because the way you want to run it, at least in the sprint cars, is you sort of want to get the right rear where you sort of are on it, but the front tires are kind of down in the slick. And what that will do, sort of help you maintain a slide all the way throughout the corner. Because if you get the front tires, if the front right tire catches that groove, it's not like an NASCAR car where that extra banking is going to help it turn. It's actually going to do the exact opposite. It's going to make you really, really tight. So you need to sort of get the car rotating as you get into 1 or into 3, and then you need to set that right rear tire on top of it. That's what you really need to do. If you look at the lights, you can actually really see the elevation change up against the top of the wall. It's not, there's not a lot of room where it's not a large area. It's only about maybe 2 or 3 feet, enough room that you can set a rear tire up there, but that's usually all you need. You see me, I'm going to hop right back up there to the top. Took me a handful of laps to start getting it right, and I don't really get it right the entire duration of this video. But when you do get it right, I do it pretty well right here through 3 and 4. See the way I'm able to just stay in the throttle and kind of maintain speed. Let's see how I do through 1 and 2 here. Not quite as great. You see, I didn't get the car sliding as much, and because of that, the right front kind of caught it, and I got all sorts of tight. The other thing you need to worry about is what's called jumping the cushion, and that's where the right rear tire, there is a berm, like I said, but what is there on a berm? You always have a face, there's always a crest, and there's always a backside. If you put that right rear tire up and over the top and on the backside of that berm, you're going to have a bad day, because and if you're lucky, you'll just get a bunch of oversteer and you'll lose a second or two in a handful of positions. If you're unlucky, it's going to high center the car, it's going to make the car do some bad things, and I've seen people flip because they basically just get the car up and over that berm, get into the wall, and it turns them over. It happens in real life all the time, and it's one of the big things you have to watch out for.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my segment where I discuss the remaining parts of the 2018 March build. This build brings us the Porsche 919 Hybrid and the Audi R18 Quattro, both LMP1 cars. Super exciting stuff. These cars will run in 2 new Le Mans series, an individual series and a team series, with the LMP2 and a GTE class racing with them. The Iracing Le Mans series will run every 2 hours with a 12-week schedule. The races will be 60 to 90 minutes as a regular official series. Then, every other week, the weeks that the GT3 series doesn't run, they will run the Iracing Le Mans Endurance series with 2 time slots. Saturday at 7 a.m. GMT and Saturday at 1900 GMT. These are 6-hour sessions, and they are team events. Now, in this build, iRating is now active in team events. What that means is that you can gain and lose iRating in team events. Not exactly sure how this is going to work out. We know already there's serious flaws if they just take the existing model and plug it into team events without tweaking. If they figure this out, it's going to be pretty good. If they don't figure it out, pretty bad. But we don't know what's going to happen until they actually put the team events in iRacing. For Week 13, we don't have any team events right now, so it's hard to tell what's going to happen. From a content creator standpoint, this car is extremely difficult to drive and extremely difficult to set up. I take that back. This car is extremely difficult to drive well. I think there's going to be a severe skill gap in this car between the best drivers and the worst drivers. And because it's a new car, if you're the best driver, why do you really want to give away the things you're doing in the car? There are multiple things you can change inside the car. There's multiple ways that you can do the boost, manual or automatic. There's tips on like when you can do the boost that you could maybe give away if you were a content creator. So I don't know how much top LMP1 content there's going to be out there. Also, both vehicles have a little difficulty with sightlines, the Porsche especially in VR. So I don't know how pleasurable they're going to be to watch. From a broadcasting standpoint, the cars look awesome. From a user's perspective, I wish iRacing gave us a little bit more information. I really would have preferred a content video where they explained all the different systems that are in the car and all the different things the car can do. There's a lot of advanced technology in this car that a layperson like me does not understand. If they could have explained that to us before the car was released, I could have jumped in and got right to it. Instead, you're kind of just like, what is this? What does this mean? And sometimes, especially for the in-car, they're using abbreviations. So you're like, SWY angle, what? You know, so anyway, just my 2 cents. I'm very happy these cars are in the service, and I think they're going to provide a lot of great content for iRacing. This build also brings you the new Indycar, the Indycar IR18. This is this year's version of Indycar, and we get it before it even hits the track. How amazing is that? I got to drive this on Tuesday night, and by God, it's an amazing car. I will say the racing in Indianapolis is not very realistic. You're able to go side by side for multiple laps on end without really any difficulty whatsoever. I haven't driven on any other track except for Indy, so I can't tell how realistic it is on those tracks compared to real life. And I don't know how we could possibly tell since this car has not even hit real life racing yet. Just amazing stuff from iRacing that we can get a car like this soon. I will say, though, this is probably the first time that I wish we had modding in iRacing. The Cosworth on the steering wheel is extremely annoying. I just can't get over the fact that I'm going to be staring at Cosworth for hours and hours and hours. From a content creator standpoint, this car is awesome. You are going to be in close racing, side by side, amazing green flag action for laps on end. It's going to make for some really exciting videos. Just get ready for your share of Cosworth jokes coming your way soon. And Pocono has been revised and rescanned. Unfortunately, doesn't look very good. If you own Pocono, you get this revised version for free. If you don't own Pocono, every member of the service gets the old version of Pocono for free. The new version does not include the infield roval, if you care about that stuff. And once again, the new version of Pocono just doesn't look very good. And that's the end of our build preview. Donk. Hey, Randy.
Yes, Kevin.
What are your thoughts on the new build?
Pretty good, pretty good. A lot of nice little changes. One that we'll talk about a little bit next week in one of our little video segments. And, of course, all the things people were excited for, the LMP1 and the new dirt tracks. I think it's pretty good overall.
There is a lot of small things in this build, like including you can edit your INI file to make the to make the spotter instantly announce whether it's a car low or car high, which helps on the restarts. I meant starts, especially on the roadside. So there's a lot of good quality of life changes in this build.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, like I said, there's going to be one of those that we talk about a bit next week with some of the button mapping. And there's a lot of good quality, like you just said, quality of life stuff. And, of course, some good solid content as well. LMP1 cars come out, and they're amazing. You have 2 new dirt tracks that are completely different from any of the other ones we've had. And, of course, you have the new rallycross track, which is actually a lot of fun. So it's overall, I think, honestly one of the best builds that I've seen in the 6 years I've been on the sim.
But it's amazing to me, like, how little, basically, announcements, content, I guess is what I'm looking for. You basically have to read the patch notes, and then you have to go, and then you have to, like, Google more information, or you got to be, like, a member of a Facebook group that explains this stuff to you. I really wish iRacing, like, put more thought into, like, making content explaining what is actually in the patch.
Overwatch is very good about that. Everyone, I mean, the Jeff Kaplan videos are probably most famous for getting turned into meme music videos, but every single time, I think it's about once a month or so, they have a big update. Jeff Kaplan comes on, explains the changes, does a little bit of a community outreach, and I think that'd be something very good for iRacing as well. Talk about, changes that are coming up, some of the more vague things in the patch notes, and even then, even with some of the announcements, like, even though people understand it, things like announcing the Indycar on a forum post versus putting out a highlight video or an advertising video sort of misses the mark a little bit as well. And I talked about that in one of the articles that I released here during week 13, which we'll do a separate podcast on that topic. But, just little things like that, those little touches, much like this build, a lot of little touches in this build went a long way. And it's the same way for community outreach, I feel.
And I think they had a job posting. I don't know if they filled it, but one of the job posting was to create videos.
Yeah, that was Drew Adamson. He's the new video guy.
And they're supposed to, like, and part of the job description was, like, knowledge of cars and stuff like that. Like, even just a video explaining the boost on the LMP1 cars would have been very helpful.
Well, to be fair, that's nothing against Drew, because I've met Drew. Drew's a nice guy, but I don't know if anyone really explains those very well, because one of the things that's interesting is that we've seen those cars, the LMP1 cars, in various other sims like R Factor and whatnot. And VEC is probably the best example, because for those who don't know what VEC is, it's basically R Factor 2's version of Neo. Like, it's actually such a big series that they have interaction with the developers of R Factor 2. It's a very, very
It's on the Race Room
important
YouTube channel, I think.
Yeah, like it's a huge series. They have had LMP1 cars for a while. The R Factor guys saw these cars coming. They re-upped their iRacing memberships, got those cars, and they are more complex than the R Factor ones. There's a lot more things happening. The hybrid systems are a lot more intricately designed. They work a lot more properly. So even though these guys, they've been running quote-unquote modded versions of LMP1 cars for 2, 3, 4 years, they come in and they open that in-car control page, and they're like, mommy? It's the cars are so intricate. Like, I think that's going to be one of those things that people sort of have to figure out by themselves over time, and you can't just necessarily take one of the engineers, drag them in front of a camera, and post a YouTube video, because it'd be such sort of mind-numbingly almost boring information that I don't know if anyone would be able to get through it. It'd probably take an hour or two, if not more, to really, really explain how those systems work and how to really get the most out of them.
Well, I'd be willing to sit through an hour. All right, so, but overall, this is a very good quality of life build. It's not groundbreaking, and it also shows just how different iRacing is than other games or other sims, even just games in general. I can't think of another game that knows that they have day-night coming within 3 months and just release basically part of it now and then part of it later.
Yeah, I mean, iRacing the past 2 years, we know that they've been working on day to night for the last couple of years. And I assume
they're so close, and now they get the LMP1s. Like, they could have had a massive build just centered around all the great endurance content.
Yeah, I mean, they've been slowly building to that for the last really 2 or 3 years, because it started a couple years ago where they were like, oh, hey, now there's a night version of South Boston, or now there's a night version of Lanier, or a night version of this track. They started messing with the lighting. A couple new tracks came out, and the lighting was very different. You could tell, if anyone had the ability to read between the lines, that iRacing was doing things in the background, and then eventually came out and was let slip that they're working on day to night as a thing. And it's something that they're continuing to work on, and you continue to see those little things trickle through. For example, on the Ferrari and the Ford GTE cars, when those came out, you had the LED lights that, at least on the Ferrari, were changeable, not so much on the Ford for reasons that even I kind of don't understand. And then you have the Porsche and the Audi that just come out, and you see the same thing in the headlights. So all really coming in showing, hey, we're expecting these cars to be run through the evening, and we're adding these little features that are not going to be noticeable during the sunlight. It will only be noticeable when the sun is down. So it's going to be an awesome, awesome situation when that happens. And you see the culmination of all the work they've been putting in really come together. There's going to be a lot of things that have already come into the sim that really piece into that I think people are going to be very surprised to see what all that entails.
And turning to the culmination of a lot of work, there's a couple new World Championship Series, right?
Yep, a couple new World Championships, 2 with the World of Outlaws, the late models, and the sprint cars. That's going to be exciting. The qualifying series for those starts in a couple days. On Monday, I believe it's March the 19th is the first one, I believe. So Monday, it's in a couple weeks. Mondays will be late models and sprint cars, and then on Thursday nights we'll have the Red Bull Global Rallycross qualifiers. A bit of an interesting situation. They're using snake splits to qualify, which I know has been asked for a long, long time. At least by the NASCAR guys. The NASCAR guys have really demanded the snake split system. I'm not sure if you're aware how that works.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, how it works, Kevin. For those who are unaware, basically it means, so instead of the traditional way of if there's 40 cars, or if there's 40 cars for a total split and 80 people signed up, the top split is the top 40, and then the second split is the next 40. The way it would work is the highest I-rated driver is car 1 in room 1. Second highest rated driver, number 1, room 2, and then basically as follows. So what it essentially does is kind of divvies up the talent level between all the lobbies, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this. On the one hand, it's fun to see the best guys really go out there and really duke it out, but on the other hand, in order to qualify for these series, you're going to have to be winning these qualifying races, and you're going to have to be consistently finishing these qualifying races. You're not going to be able to rely on just knowing that you're in the top split, being able to settle for a 5th or 6th finish in a heat race, or in a feature, knowing that you're going to be able to carry enough points through this way. It's really going to force people not only to race quickly and be fast, but to be clean as well, and I honestly think I really like that.
There's going to be a lot of wonky things. I mean, hopefully this works out. It does seem interesting that a guy like me who's never raced dirt before but likes to make content can just hop in this race and maybe mess up and screw up somebody who's actually like one of the best dirt drivers. You know, it's a short season too. You know, 5 races with 1 drop.
It's hard to say, and I sort of have a mixed opinion on this.
And
as well,
with the way the heats and the features and everything work, it's not the same. It's not the same points for every split like it should be in snake splits.
No, it is. It is.
Wouldn't it go off strength of field of what the main is?
No, the way they have the session set up is that the winners of every room, I believe, will get the same amount of points.
Okay,
so
that makes it better.
So at the end of week 1, so for example, for the sprint car series, let's say there were 30 sessions total. At the end of that, you will see 30 people in first place because of that win. Now that could create an issue. Could not. You have a drop week, but like I said, in order to really do this, you're going to have to win a lot of races consistently. And the other thing to keep in mind is that if you do not make those features, so if you're not clean getting through heats, if you don't qualify well, you're not going to be able to get nearly as many points, and you actually may just take a 0, I think, if you don't actually make that feature race. So it's going to put a lot of pressure on the drivers. I wouldn't mind if the qualifying series is longer. I wish they sort of kept the few fake tracks that we had with Lanier and USA, because I think it would just it would turn it from a 5-week qualifying championship to a 7-week championship. And even though it's only 2 weeks, there's still a lot more consistency required there. And I understand why they don't want to use those circuits in the World Championship. That makes complete sense. But you know, I think if they were to do that, it'd be nice. But I think the World of Outlaws and Red Bull are really chomping at the bit for getting some World Championships running in 2018. So they're kind of getting rushed a little bit.
Any special concerns you'd have about GSRC? GSRC, that's not even right. The Global Rallycross. Any special concerns you have about that because of all the chaos that series brings?
Well, I mean, I talk about this in an article as well, but we saw it in the Friday Night Dirt Night broadcast. Even though Rallycross, as interesting as it is and as awesome racing it can put on, unfortunately in the sim, we just had constant situations where people's egos would sort of get in the way of good racing. And you see quick drivers like Stilian Chipolewski and Sindre Setsas. These drivers would qualify top 3, top 4, every single week, consistently, a handful of drivers, those two are the ones that really come to mind, very, very close to the speed that Mitchell de Jong showed, and then consistently every single week, they would try to make some 3 wide or 4 wide or bonsai move in turn 1, trying to go from like 3rd place to 2nd place. And then they would cause a big incident. We would go from having 10 cars running at turn 1, and we'd have 6 that were all spread out. And the feature would be nothing more than like watching Mitchell run around and then watching the battle for like 7th place deep down the order. It just sort of, guys are going to need to be clean, and that's one of the reasons I do like the snake split format of this championship, because for those guys who do not and are unable to finish these races up near the fronts of their splits consistently, despite their raw out-and-out speed, they're not going to be able to make the World Championship. And it kind of has to be said, in my opinion, if you have the speed but can't make it to the end of those races, do you even deserve a black stripe in the first place?
It's also on the dirt content, oval dirt, that basically a third of the field doesn't make the feature. But in rallycross, over half, only 10 of 24 make the feature race.
Yeah, it is sort of different parts. It's one of those things, it's just different because of the way that it works in real life for those series. So in rallycross, 10 cars on a racetrack, you can't really get much more than that. You could maybe see 12. You could maybe see an argument for 12, but outside of that, things get way too crowded, and it would just become a complete and total cluster. Sprint cars, 20 cars, 24 cars, same with late models, 20, 30 cars or so for a feature race. That's what we expect to see in real life. That's what I would expect to see in the sim, and especially for a world championship sanctioned by the real world championship. So everything echoes the real series really well on both fronts, and I quite like that.
It makes perfect sense, but I'm just saying from a luck perspective.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the luck perspective is definitely going to be there, but the format's also different. You got to remember, there's now 3 heat races for Rallycross, which means you're going to have potentially the talent should be more spread out through those heat races. So if you're really good, you should be able to get yourself through and in towards the feature. And then the way consolation racing is going to work as well is going to work a little bit different. So there's a couple different ways it works out for trying to set those grids for those races. It's not like the traditional what we've seen in the official series where you just have 2 heats and then a last chance qualifier and then you go in. It's 3 heat races, and then there's 2 last chance qualifiers, each of which transfer people to the main event, and then that goes into the feature. So it's a very unique format. And it's one that I don't think I'm going to be able to have an opinion on it until we really see it in action. It's hard to be like, this is going to be good or this is going to be bad until you actually see what happens out there on the racetrack, at least for me.
Well, it'll be exciting to watch, at least. I think there's going to be a decent amount of quality drivers that don't make it, especially in the rallycross. Okay, let's move on. So,
maybe, but we'll move on.
Okay, just in the interest of time. So it was announced that VRS is now the title sponsor of the Blancpain, how I say it, endurance series. Exactly. How do you say it, Randy?
It's Blancpain.
Yeah, Blancpain, right.
But you said it like slow, so it was funny. It was like,
yeah. Well, I get it
like
from James Bond. I only know it from James Bond. Blancpain pen. That's the only way I know it from. So, but basically, this just came out of the blue, and it came almost at the same time that AC announced their partnership with their new game. So it caused some speculations in the forums, which were quickly shot down by Tony. What do you feel about us having title sponsors?
I dig it. It's one of the things that we've really struggled with for the World Championships. The NASCAR and Peak Antifreeze, they've been partners with that World Championship since I think 2011 or 2012. It's been a long time now. So, you're talking half a decade plus of that partnership. Really, really good. We had Blancpain around for a while, which was really good for that as well. Them and the SRO, they picked up their partnership with Iracing. Would it have been 2014 for the 6-hour race at the Nürburgring? They called it the GT 500, and with the Sim Racing Expo, that was like the first or second year of that. And that was good, but it's good to see that even though that sponsor pulls out, that we get an immediate one stepping in as VRS, who is very, very good within the community. There's some plus and minuses both ways. On the one hand, you lose your real-life series and real-life sanctioning body. But on the other hand, with Blancpain going away, you avoid any of that sort of, oh, is Blancpain showing favoritism to this sim over the other sim? And you also avoid, just that sort of situation is, I don't think, very good. And you just get a new company coming in who honestly is a lot more involved with the community. Because let's be real, we had that Blancpain championship, and as much as I love Blancpain in real life, the total 24 hours of Spa, one of the greatest races in the world, that championship is probably the best GT-only championship in the world for endurance racing by far. But outside of the name and that little bit of sponsorship, I don't think they were necessarily the greatest fit for iRacing. We had... there was very little interaction with the community as a whole. There was a Sim Racing Expo, but I don't think iRacing being there was entirely a Blancpain thing. I think that was just sort of a general thing that was happening regardless, and iRacing was there at the time anyways. But you also have the fact that Blancpain was very restrictive with iRacing with the track schedules, and Tony said otherwise, but I'm well enough in the loop to know that there. Look at the last two series of Blancpain, the opening season in 2016 and then 2017. There's a reason that those championships followed the exact real-life track schedules down to the dates of the real-world Blancpain series. Why there was never any variety in terms of layouts, in terms of circuits. The only change-up we got was Imola after there was a server failure at Silverstone. So we had to they added Imola in as an additional round in 2016. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, Blancpain takes a step back and goes away. iRacing comes in. They spice up the variety of the schedules. We're just coming off that season opener for 2018. That 6-hour race was easily the best race from that World Championship history, Blancpain or not. Easily the best race we've ever seen. Josh Rogers and TTL take a big, big win in that one. So overall, if it works out for all parties involved, if iRacing's product gets a little bit more flexibility and able to be a little bit better, and if Blancpain is able to be happier with whatever sim that they are or maybe potentially no longer are involved with, win-win for everybody.
Did they have a fantastic race at Spa last year, or was that the 24 hours of Spa? That was the best race I've ever seen.
We broadcasted the 6-hour. That race is really good as well. I think
Did it come down to 3 teams at the end?
Yeah, it was like you had Core Orange with Frederick and Isaac, who were just on blistering pace as they were all season. You had the VRS Coenda, I believe it would have been the number 8 car.
Right, and they were on different tire strategies. It was great.
Well, they sort of tried to make the same strategy happen. The problem for the Coenda car for that race was the fact that everyone skipped tires at the first stop, but Coenda took tires. And that put them in this predicament of, do we take tires at this stop this next hour, and be on the same cycle as everyone else? Because very few, no one's going to triple stint, although that's changed, apparently. Or do we skip tires now and then have to figure out at the end, do we take tires for our final 1-hour stint, or do we try to risk a triple stint at the end? The call they ended up making was trying to risk a triple stint, and if the race is 1 lap shorter, they end up winning that race. If it goes, it went just 1 lap long enough, Frederick Rasmussen made that pass going into Lacombe on the final lap. And, like you said, one of the best races I've ever seen by far. Only race I think that won upset is Bathurst that just happened this weekend.
All right, let's jump right to this blip shift contest.
Oh, God, you did it.
I know, I said blip shift.
Not the first time.
I did. No, I did. I said blip shift. I'm going to go back and listen to it again. All right, in case I have to edit this, let's go right to the blip shift contest. So this was a contest where you could submit a design, and if you were a U.S. resident, this was only for U.S. residents only, you had to submit a iRacing design for a T-shirt. And if you were the winning entry, you got $500 of iRacing credits, and basically people could buy your T-shirt, right? And I was on the iRacers Lounge podcast when this was first announced, and I was thrilled because basically the default iRacing T-shirts you can buy in the store suck. I mean, they suck. And
this T-shirts, I honestly didn't know that.
Oh yeah. In the store, they're terrible.
Hold on, I'm going
They're
to the store.
they're plain white with just the iRacing logo on it. They're terrible. So they announced this, and then they go to the Chili Bowl, and there's really great T-shirts from the iRacing sponsored cars. Like, so I was like really happy. I'm like, finally, I'm getting some iRacing content, that I can wear. Because as a streamer that has a webcam, I need shirts. I gotta mix it up. So they pretty much had a guaranteed sale from me in this contest. And I was looking at some of the designs. Now, obviously, they're not going to pick ones that say, you crash or anything like that. Anything that's negative to iRacing is going to be instantly out. But there were some really good designs in there, and what they picked, I'm throwing the image up here. What they picked is not good.
It's good, but it's just the wrong design. So
it is a cool concept. Okay, we'll take it back. Then I will let you go. If we had the option of 5 shirts in the store and that was one of them, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it's a good shirt. It's a good, memey, funny sim racing shirt. But there's nothing on it at all that says iRacing. It doesn't, it doesn't say anything at the sim, and there's just no. I don't want to say there's no creativity to it, but it doesn't tie in with iRacing the service enough, in my opinion. I think that's the problem. This was an iRacing themed competition to make the best iRacing themed shirt that would go up on Blip Shift, that you'd get a bunch of credits. And congratulations to Juan. Like I said, I like the design. I think it's a funny shirt. It's one that I would consider buying for sure. But it was the wrong one to do for iRacing. And as I'm looking through the store, I have to agree with you, Kevin. This is pretty bad.
Yeah, and like I said, they had a guaranteed sale for me. All I need is something with just the iRacing logo on it that looks cool. And they had a sale. And I'm not buying this. Why would I buy something that has triple screens on it when I race in VR?
Yeah, I think that's one of the difficult things. It
doesn't even say iRacing on it. If it's
that to me is the big one. That to me is the big one. It's you can bring up the VR argument, but the fact that the shirt has no reference to the sim as a whole is just sort of how it things just didn't quite pan out the way they should have, and really the way a lot of other people thought they were going to. And I think iRacing weren't big fans of that.
And again, this is nothing on Juan Lopez as a winning design. There's nothing wrong with the design itself, but if there can only be one winner, it's just, this is not what I was looking for, not what Randy was looking for. And based on the overall reaction between Twitter, the forums, Reddit, and Discord, not what the rest of the people were looking for.
Yeah, it's sort of, I'm not sure who chose that. I don't know if it was Blip Shift who chose that. I don't know if it was iRacing. But it sort of ties in with brand identifiers, doesn't it? And interaction with the community. We kind of talked about that at the top of the show. The fact that you get all these little kind of vague updates, like things with the LMP1 cars, as complex as they are. Things just sort of get dropped into the sim, and the users are basically told, "Here you go, figure it out." Despite how complex things may or may not be, you have these nifty little features that, while some of the programmers and some of the people behind the scenes, they're very good going into the forums, having kind of a forum post isn't nearly as good of a way to make sure word gets out as, say, a YouTube video every 3 months from, I don't know if it'd be, I'm just throwing names out there, if it'd have to be Randy Cassidy or one of the other guys, or maybe Steve, someone involved with the community in some way who still has a technical knowledge of how all these little changes work. You'd sort of have to hit a Venn diagram to find the right person for that. So doing something like that would be very, very good, like we talked about, and I think the community would like that. And I think it just shows that little bit of a disconnect that's happening with iRacing and the community on iRacing at the moment. There's several examples that I think point to that.
So Kevin Bob had posted in the forums after the reactions. Now, a couple of posts got removed, so it could have been specific posts about that T-shirt. But all the posts I saw was, why did that shirt win over this shirt? Or that shirt is very generic. Or what I said, I was looking for a cool T-shirt that at least referenced iRacing. So Bobbit responds, there were many good designs, including this one. Juan came up with something creative and is a deserving winner. There were also many designs that couldn't be considered due to trademark violations residency issues, etc. Now, this is the key. Not sure what to say other than I am disappointed by the reactions. It sounds like people are upset their favorite design didn't win. It makes it hard to do these sort of fun contests if all it does is create negativity. It's so frustrating. I don't want to misread. It is frustrating that I need to post in the forums defending a member who entered a creative contest and won.
Your lawyer came out there when you misspoke.
Yes,
Don't want to misrepresent Kevin.
I didn't. I don't. But
I know.
It is frustrating that I, Kevin Bobbitt, need to post in the forums defending a member who entered the contest and won. I don't think a single post actually referenced the guy who actually made the shirt. I don't think there was a single person saying that guy can't make a t-shirt for crap. It was like, why is that the one winner? I think was the overall post. So it doesn't seem like they're going to have many of these contests in the future. But you know what? There's going to be a lot in the future. More episodes of the RutgersKev Show.
Yeah, there definitely are. Me and Kevin are talking like 2, 3, 4 dozen episodes down the line. We have like years worth of content planned, don't we?
Yep, and so now it's a good time to end this one. And that's my show. Thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and more importantly, share. Let's grow.
That's the end of my show. Donk.